I'm Isabella Rossi, 27, female. I live in a small apartment above my own restaurant, the Rossi Plate, a place I poured my blood, sweat, and life savings into. It's my sanctuary and my life's work. My world has always been about two things, food and my older brother, Marco. So when he decided to get married, I was ready to move heaven and earth for him, only to find out that his new family thought I was the dirt beneath their feet. Before this story unfolds, I'd love to connect with you. Please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. It's amazing to see how far these stories can travel. Growing up, Marco and I were an inseparable team. Our parents passed away when I was 16 and he was 19, a tragedy that forged an unbreakable bond between us. He put his own dreams on hold, working 2 jobs to make sure I could finish culinary school. On the day I graduated, with tears in his eyes, he made me promise something. Izzy, he said, clutching my diploma, one day, when I get married, you're going to be the one standing beside me, and you're going to cater the whole thing, no arguments. We both laughed, sealing the promise over a cheap bottle of sparkling wine. It was more than just a silly pact. It was a testament to our journey, a symbol that we had made it. Years later, I opened the Rossi Plate. It was a cozy, authentic Italian place that celebrated our heritage. It wasn't fancy, but it was honest, and it became my heart and soul. Marco was my biggest supporter. He helped me paint the walls, he was the first customer, and he brought all his friends and colleagues. He was so proud. When he introduced me to his fiancée, Chloe, I was ecstatic for him. She was a lifestyle blogger, impeccably dressed and polished, with a smile that was bright but never quite reached her eyes. I brushed it off as wedding stress. Her mother, Karen, was an interior designer with a portfolio of minimalist, sterile-looking mansions and an equally cold demeanor. They spoke of their wedding not as a celebration of love, but as a brand-defining event. Chloe was planning to livestream the entire ceremony and reception for her followers. It's all about creating an aspirational narrative, darling. She'd explained to me, patting my flower, dusted hand with 2 perfectly manicured fingers. Still, for Marco's sake, I embraced it all. I offered to host their engagement party at my restaurant, free of charge. I designed a custom menu, pouring all my love for my brother into every dish. During the party, I overheard Karen telling one of her friends, "It's a bit rustic, isn't it, but quaint," Marco insisted. A small sting of hurt pricked my heart, but I ignored it. This was Marco's happiness, and that was all that mattered. We started planning the wedding menu together. I sketched out ideas for a 5-course meal, a fusion of our family's classic recipes with modern culinary art. Marco was thrilled, but Chloe and Karen were difficult. They wrinkled their noses at my suggestions. "Can we do something less heavy?" Chloe asked, scrolling through her phone. "My followers are very health-conscious. We need food that looks good on camera." Karen suggested a high-end catering company from the city, one known for tiny, artful portions that cost a fortune. "They just have a certain level of sophistication, Isabella," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. Marco defended me. "No, Izzy is catering. That's final. It was a promise." The firmness in his voice warmed me, chasing away the chill from their words. He pulled me aside later that night. "Don't listen to them, Izzy. This is our day, but it's your food I want. It always has been." That reassurance was all I needed. I spent the next 2 months perfecting the menu, ordering premium ingredients, and coordinating with my staff. I was going to give my brother the most incredible wedding feast he could ever imagine, fulfilling the promise we made all those years ago. The wedding was a month away, and despite the tension with my future in-laws, my heart was full. I was about to celebrate the man who had sacrificed so much for me. I felt like I was finally paying him back. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of stress, but the kind of stress that comes from creation, from purpose. My Sue's chef and best friend, Sophia, was my rock. Together, we finalized the logistics. We hired extra staff, coordinated with the venue, a sprawling, elegant vineyard an hour out of town, and began prepping the non-perishable components. My entire life was consumed by this wedding, a massive undertaking I was doing out of pure love. Every spare moment was spent ensuring every detail was perfect for Marco. The cracks, however, were beginning to show. Chloe and Karen had taken over every other aspect of the wedding with military precision. My role, it seemed, was to be confined to the kitchen. When I asked Chloe about the rehearsal dinner, she waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, don't worry about that. It's just a small, intimate thing with the bridal party at a very exclusive club." The message was clear. I was the help, not family. I was invited to the wedding, of course, but not to the inner circle events. I tried talking to Marco about it, but he was constantly busy, his conversations short and distracted. "It's just easier this way, Izzy," he said. "Chloe's mom has everything handled. You just focus on the amazing food." I felt a growing unease, a sense that I was being systematically pushed to the margins of my own brother's life. My bridesmaid dress, which Chloe had picked out, arrived 2 sizes too small. When I called her, she sighed dramatically. "Well, can't you just get it altered? Or maybe just wear something simple and black? You'll be in the kitchens most of the night anyway, right?" The casual cruelty of her words hit me like a physical blow. I was no longer his sister, the one who was supposed to stand by his side. I was just the caterer. Still, I held on to that promise. I would not let them ruin this for Marco. I swallowed my pride, paid a seamstress a rush fee to fix the dress, and buried myself in my work. The food would be my statement. It would be so full of love and history that it would be impossible to ignore our bond. Then, 10 days before the wedding, the text arrived. I was in the middle of service at my restaurant, wiping sweat from my brow after sending out a perfect plate of osso buco. My phone buzzed on the stainless steel counter. It was from Marco. I smiled, expecting another last minute request or a quick check-in. My smile faded as I read the words. 4 words that shattered my world. "Don't come to the wedding." I stared at it, rereading it a dozen times, convinced it was a typo or a sick joke. My thumbs trembled as I typed back, "What? Is this a joke? What's going on?" The 3 little dots appeared, then vanished. My heart hammered against my ribs. A minute later, a second message came through. It was longer, colder, and utterly devastating. "Chloe, Karen, and I have decided it's for the best. The wedding is going to be a very high-profile event for Chloe's brand, and we want a more professional, unified front. We've hired a different catering company. Please don't try to contact me. This is my final decision. You can just watch it on YouTube." The phone slipped from my grasp and clattered to the floor. The noise of the kitchen faded into a deafening roar in my ears. Sophia rushed to my side, her face etched with concern. "Isabella, what is it? What's wrong?" I couldn't speak. I could only point a shaking finger at the phone screen. My promise, my love, my connection to the only family I had left. All of it had been dismissed in a text message. I wasn't just uninvited. I was demoted to a spectator, told to watch my brother's new life begin from behind a screen, like a stranger. The cruelty was breathtaking. In that moment, the warmth of my kitchen felt like the coldest place on earth. The first 24 hours were a blur of numb disbelief. I canceled the rest of the dinner service, mumbling something about a gas leak, and locked myself in my apartment. I called Marco. The call went straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. After the 5th try, I realized he hadn't just messaged me. He had blocked my number. The finality of it was a punch to the gut. I tried his work email, his social media, anything I could think of. Silence. He had completely and utterly cut me out. My mind raced, trying to find a reason, a mistake I had made. Did I say something wrong at the engagement party? Was my menu not good enough? Every interaction I'd had with Chloe and Karen replayed in my head, their subtle insults and condescending looks suddenly taking on a monstrous new significance. I had been so focused on honoring my promise to Marco that I had been blind to the fact that they were actively trying to erase me. The worst part was Marco letting them. The boy who promised to always have my back had vanished, replaced by a man who discarded me via text message. Sophia was my lifeline. She came upstairs with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses, sitting with me in silence as I cried. She didn't offer platitudes or false hope. She just listened as I cycled through grief, confusion, and a white, hot, simmering anger. "This isn't him, Sophia." I sobbed, my voice hoarse. "This is them. They've done something, said something to turn him against me. I know." She said softly, her hand a comforting weight on my shoulder, "But he's the one who sent the text, Izzy. He's a grown man. He made a choice." Her words were harsh but true. As much as I wanted to blame Chloe and Karen entirely, Marco held the ultimate responsibility. He was my brother. He should have fought for me. The next few days, I was a ghost. I walked through the motions at the restaurant, my passion for cooking extinguished. The massive orders of ingredients I had placed for the wedding started to arrive. Crates of San Marzano tomatoes, wheels of Parmigiano Reggiano, premium cuts of veal. Each delivery was a fresh stab of pain, a reminder of the beautiful meal that would never be served, the promise that had been broken. I had to tell my staff. Gathering them in the kitchen, my voice cracking, I explained that the wedding catering was off. The disappointment on their faces mirrored my own. They had been excited about the challenge, but their looks of disappointment quickly turned to loyalty and concern for me. That small act of solidarity was a pinprick of light in my suffocating darkness. Sleep offered no escape. I dreamt of our childhood, of Marco piggybacking me through the park after I'd scraped my knee, of him holding my hand at our parents' funeral, whispering, "It's you and me against the world, Izzy." I would wake up with tears streaming down my face, the sense of betrayal so profound it felt like a physical illness. The question of why consumed me. It wasn't enough to be told I was no longer welcome. I needed to understand the reason behind such a monstrous act. I couldn't move on, couldn't even begin to process the grief until I knew the truth. I had been judged and sentenced without a trial, and I refused to accept the verdict without knowing the crime. The search for answers became my singular focus. The grief was still there, but something else was starting to grow beside it, a cold, hard seed of resolve. My quest for the truth began online. If Chloe's brand was the reason I was exiled, then her brand was where I would find the answers. Sophia, who was far more skilled at navigating the labyrinth of social media than I was, became my co-investigator. We spent hours after the restaurant closed, huddled over her laptop in the empty dining room, scrolling through Chloe's perfectly curated world. Her blog, The Gilded Life, was a sea of pastel colors, expensive vacations, and sponsored posts for luxury brands. Every photo was flawless, every caption a carefully crafted piece of inspirational prose about authenticity and living your best life. It was sickeningly ironic. We looked at her posts about the wedding, tagged with sickening hashtags like #marryingmyprince and #the Rossi Empire. She wrote about her vision for a seamless, elegant, and modern affair that would reflect her and Marco's shared values. There were posts praising her wedding planner, her dress designer, and even the calligrapher who did the invitations. There was not a single mention of me. It was as if I didn't exist. The real breakthrough came from a less public space. Sophia had a cousin who had once worked with Chloe on a marketing campaign and had been briefly added to a private group chat for fellow creatives. The cousin had long since left the group but still had access to its old threads. She sent Sophia screenshots that made my blood run cold. They were from a few weeks back, a conversation between Chloe and another blogger. Chloe wrote, "Ugh, wedding planning is a nightmare. M's sister is a chef. She basically runs a pizza joint, and he's insisting she caters the wedding. Can you imagine? It's going to be so tacky. My entire aesthetic is clean and minimalist, and she wants to serve big plates of pasta. It's a brand disaster." The other blogger replied, "OMG, no, you have to shut that down. Your wedding is going to be your biggest content moment of the year. You can't have some local yokel relative ruin the vibe." Chloe's next message was the kill shot. "I'm working on it. My mom is a genius. We're positioning it to Marco as an issue of family drama and stress, making him think that letting her do it is putting her in an awkward position with our guests, who are used to a certain standard. He's slowly coming around. He just needs to realize that the family you choose is more important than the family you're born with, especially when one of them smells like garlic." The words swam before my eyes. Tacky, pizza joint. Local yokel, smells like garlic. Every word was a carefully aimed dart, designed to diminish me, to paint me as some embarrassing, low-class burden that would tarnish her precious image. My life's work, the restaurant I built from nothing, the food that was an extension of my soul and our family's history. It was all just a source of shame for her, and Karen, her genius of mother, had helped her manipulate my brother into believing it. They hadn't just uninvited me, they had systematically poisoned my brother's perception of me, framing their snobbery as a form of kindness. Sophia found more. On Karen's private social media, she'd posted a photo of her and Chloe at a tasting with Lucille, the absurdly expensive catering company she'd wanted from the start. The caption read, "Upgrading. So thrilled that Marco and Chloe will have the elegant, sophisticated wedding they deserve. Out with the old, in with the new." The post was from the day after I received the text. There it was, the ugly, unvarnished truth. I wasn't uninvited because of some terrible thing I had done. I was uninvited because of who I was. I was a chef, a worker, a woman who used her hands. I wasn't a brand. I didn't fit their aesthetic. I was a loose thread in the perfect tapestry they were weaving, so they simply cut me out. The pain of Marco's betrayal sharpened into something new. It was no longer just grief. It was a profound, chilling fury. They wanted to erase me for the sake of a perfect YouTube stream. They thought they could just delete me from the narrative, and in that moment, sitting in the quiet darkness of my restaurant, I decided they were wrong. The fury didn't burn hot and fast. It settled into a cold, dense weight in my chest. For 2 days, I let it solidify, crystallizing into a clear, sharp-edged purpose. They had attacked my identity, my work, and my family. They had used their world of superficial images and curated narratives to hurt me. So I decided I would use my world, the world of tangible things, of substance and craft, to fight back. My revenge wouldn't be loud or destructive. It would be precise, elegant, and served at the exact right moment. It would be a dish of my own creation. My first call was to the vineyard. Posing as a coordinator for a potential client, I asked about their preferred vendors. As I'd hoped, they mentioned the catering company, Lucille. A few more calls, and I found out the name of the head chef, a man named Jean-Pierre, known for his towering ego and meticulous, almost obsessive, attention to detail. I knew his type. He valued reputation above all else. My second step was to rally my own troops. I gathered Sophia and my most trusted staff. I laid out the screenshots, the texts, the whole ugly story. They humiliated me. I said, my voice steady. They dismissed our work and everything we stand for. They want a perfect show for their YouTube audience, so we're going to give them a taste of something real. A fire lit in their eyes. They weren't just my employees, they were my family, and they were furious on my behalf. The plan began to form, a multi-course masterpiece of retribution. It had 3 main components. Component 1, the appetizer. This was about logistics. I still had all the detailed plans and schedules from when I was the caterer. I knew the venue layout, the delivery times, the staff entrances. Lucille was a big, corporate machine. They wouldn't have the intimate knowledge of the space that I did. I discovered that all vendor deliveries had to be made through a single, narrow service road between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. on the wedding day. A simple, well-timed delivery issue could cause a significant delay. I reached out to a friend of mine who owned a produce delivery truck. I asked him for a favor to have his largest truck suffer a very unfortunate, very slow-to-fix breakdown. At the narrowest point of that service, road at exactly 7:15 a.m., Component 2, the main course. This was the heart of the plan. Chloe and Karen wanted to erase my tacky food. I was going to make sure my food was the only thing anyone talked about. Remember all those premium ingredients I had ordered? They weren't going to waste. For the week leading up to the wedding, my team and I worked tirelessly. We prepared hundreds of free, gourmet meal boxes. Each box contained a small portion of what would have been the wedding feast: braised lamb shank with saffron risotto, handmade gnocchi with a truffle cream sauce, and a side of my signature rosemary focaccia. Inside each box, we placed a small, elegantly printed card. On one side was the logo for the Rossi plate. On the other, a simple message: family recipes are made with love. Some things are more important than aesthetics. With compliments, Isabella Rossi. Component 3, the dessert. This was the public-facing element, the part that would play out on their precious YouTube stream. We researched the wedding's livestream details. The link was public, meant to be shared widely to boost Chloe's follower count. They had a professional multi-camera setup and a live chat enabled for audience engagement. Sophia created dozens of anonymous accounts on YouTube. We also drafted a single, powerful statement detailing the story from my perspective, complete with the damning screenshots from Chloe's group chat. We sent this statement, under embargo, to 3 of the city's most popular food bloggers and 1 local gossip columnist, to be published at exactly 7 p.m., right in the middle of the reception. The plan was set. It was intricate, required perfect timing, and was completely legal. I wasn't sabotaging their wedding. I was simply promoting my restaurant and telling my story. If their perfect day happened to be the backdrop, well, they had chosen the stage. The day before the wedding, as my friend confirmed his truck was ready, I looked around my kitchen. It was buzzing with quiet, focused energy. My team was carefully packing the last of the meal boxes. This wasn't just about revenge and amour. It was about reclaiming my name, my craft, and my dignity. They wanted to make me invisible. They were about to find out I was the main event. The day of the wedding arrived, bright and sunny. A perfect day for a brand, defining event. I didn't feel sadness or regret, only a calm, focused anticipation. I spent the morning at my restaurant, overseeing the final preparations. My friend with the delivery truck sent me a text at 7:20 a.m. It was a photo of his massive truck parked diagonally across the vineyard's service road. Hood up with him shrugging helplessly. Engine trouble. The caption read, "Gonna be a while." Phase 1 was a success. I knew from my research that Chef Jean-Pierre ran his kitchen on a razor-thin schedule. A 2-hour delay would throw his entire operation into chaos at 3 p.m. As the ceremony was scheduled to begin, my team and I executed Phase 2. We drove to the public park located just a mile from the vineyard's main gate. As guests arrived, they were met with traffic backed up due to the broken-down truck. And as they waited in their cars, my staff, dressed in crisp, the Rossi Plate uniforms, moved from car to car. Compliments from a local business, they said with warm smiles, handing over the beautiful, fragrant meal boxes, a little something for the delay. People were delighted. They opened the boxes, and the incredible aroma of high-quality Italian food filled the air. They were getting a taste of the wedding feast they were meant to have. Back at the restaurant, Sophia and I set up a large monitor in my office. We tuned into the YouTube livestream. The ceremony was already running 40 minutes late. We could see guests fanning themselves, looking restless. Chloe looked beautiful, but there was a frantic, stressed energy behind her smile. Marco just looked lost. When the ceremony finally began, it was rushed and tense. The real show began during the reception. The livestream camera panned over the elegantly decorated room. The food being served by Lucille's flustered staff looked sparse and hastily plated. The delay had clearly taken its toll. The live chat was filled with sycophantic comments from Chloe's followers. "So beautiful, OMG goals, love the decor." At exactly 7 p.m., Sophia gave me a nod, "It's time." Simultaneously, the articles we had planted went live. The food bloggers and the gossip columnist published their pieces, all titled something along the lines of, "The wedding feast you didn't see," "Local chef and sister of the groom pushed out for brand aesthetics." Then Sophia unleashed our army of bot accounts on the YouTube live chat. The first message appeared, then another, then a flood. "Wait, is this the wedding where they uninvited the groom's own sister? I just read an article. They fired his sister, who is a chef, because she smelled like garlic." A link to the food blogger's article was posted. Then it was posted again and again. The chat, which moments before had been a stream of vapid praise, devolved into chaos. "OMG, I know her restaurant, the Rossi Plate. It's amazing. Chloe, is it true you kicked out your new sister-in-law? #family values. Wow, the gilded life is more like the guilty life." Unsubscribing. We watched mesmerized as the truth took over their narrative. On screen, we could see Chloe's face fall as she stared at a phone in her hand. Her mother, Karen, rushed to her side, her face a mask of horror. Guests started murmuring, looking at their own phones. The carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time for thousands of people to see. Marco looked utterly bewildered, scanning the room as if searching for an answer. He looked pale and sick. Then, the ultimate moment, one of the food bloggers we'd contacted, who was attending as a plus, one for another guest, went live on her own social media from inside the reception. She showed her followers the sad, looking plate from Lucille, then held up the empty meal box from the Rossi Plate. "This is what we were served," she said, pointing to the plate, "and this." Holding up my box is the incredible meal the groom's own sister made for us for free after she was told she wasn't good enough to be here. The YouTube livestream abruptly cut to a stream-ending screen. They had pulled the plug, but it was too late. The story was out. We had done it. Sophia and I looked at each other, and for the first time in weeks, a genuine, triumphant smile spread across my face. They wanted a show. I'd given them a premiere they would never forget. The aftermath was swift and brutal. The internet has a way of magnifying scandal, and Chloe's brand, built on a flimsy foundation of authenticity, was the perfect fuel for the fire. The hashtags #GarlicGate and #Chloe the Cruel were trending by morning. Her follower count plummeted, and the brands she had sponsorship deals with began to publicly distance themselves. The gossip column ran a follow-up piece with anonymous quotes from wedding guests, describing the chaos and humiliation. The brand, defining event, had defined her, just not in the way she'd planned. My restaurant, on the other hand, was flooded. The story had turned the Rossi Plate into a symbol of integrity and family values. We were booked solid for the next 3 months. People came not just for the food, but to show their support. They would ask for the wedding menu and raise a glass to me as they ate. It was overwhelming and healing all at once. I hadn't just gotten revenge. I had turned their cruelty into my greatest marketing campaign. My work, the very thing they had shamed me for, had become my salvation. 2 days after the wedding, Marco showed up at the restaurant's back door just before closing. He looked terrible. His eyes were red, rimmed, and he hadn't shaved. "Izzy," he began, his voice cracking, "can we please talk?" I looked at him, my brother, the other half of my you and me against the world team. I felt a pang of the old love, the muscle memory of our bond. But it was followed by the cold, hard reality of his betrayal. He hadn't defended me. He hadn't even called. He had let them cut me out, and he was only here now because their perfect world had imploded. "There's nothing to talk about, Marco," I said, my voice devoid of the anger from before, replaced by a quiet, resolute calm. "You made your choice. You sent the text. You wanted me to watch from a distance, so I did. Now I need you to keep your distance. She made me. They twisted everything." He stammered, tears welling in his eyes. "I was a fool. I'm so sorry, Izzy. You're my sister." "I was always your sister, Marco," I replied, turning back towards my kitchen. "You just forgot. Goodbye." I closed the door, shutting him out just as he had shut me out. It hurt more than I could ever admit, but it was a necessary amputation. The wound was too deep, the trust too broken. Later that night, after the staff had gone home, I sat down at a small table in the center of my empty restaurant. The room was quiet, filled with the lingering smells of bread and herbs. Sophia had left a single plate of the saffron risotto for me. I poured myself a glass of wine, the same cheap sparkling brand Marco and I had shared on my graduation day. I looked at the empty chair across from me, the one where he had sat on opening night, beaming with pride. A single tear traced a path down my cheek, a final goodbye to the boy who had once been my hero. But as I took the first bite of my own food in my own restaurant, surrounded by the life I had built with my own hands, the sadness began to fade. It was replaced by a sense of peace, of wholeness. I had faced the ugliest betrayal and had not only survived but thrived. I had defended my name and honored my craft. I didn't need a seat at their table. I had my own, and tonight, this table for one felt like the most powerful, most complete place in the entire world.